Hello and welcome to another episode of the Smash Accept podcast. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at Dynasty Dad FF. Joined as always by my main man at FF Snoog. And we're at this time of year where we start to look at what our 2025 rosters are right now, what our 2026 rosters are going to be looking like. And Snoog and I have really come up with this terminology that we really believe in, and it's foundational wide receivers. We're trying to build our team around a young nucleus of wide receivers that are going to carry us. And you know, we've been spoiled over the last several years with guys like Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown that are getting a little bit older. So we're going to bring you our guys that, you know, are your foundational wide receivers to invest in for 2026. So, Snoog, I mean, you and I both really believe in, obviously we build around quarterbacks and superflex, but all formats, your team should be built around wide receivers. They last longer, you get elite level production from them, and it's a lot more consistent.
Yeah, exactly. And the guys we're going to be talking about today are, you know, people that are young, elite assets, but not only that, they have the talent, right? You want the talent there. You want the situation there. You want these players to be in, 280 to 300 plus point ceiling situations in fantasy football. And I think a lot of these guys on this list fit that criteria. Obviously, the league's the most pass heavy it's ever been right now. So wide receivers are where you want to be building your teams around, obviously with the longevity. Not even that, though, Dad. It's about the market, right? The market is all over the wide receivers. It gives us discounts on our running backs, but that's what you want, right? You want teams that are built around players that are going to be not only good for a long time, but valuable to others for a long time to give you outs.
Yeah, so what we've come up with here, and again, if you guys are new to Smash Accept, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Check us out. We're bringing you content, and not just content as far as saying trade for this player, play this way, but we talk about a process. At the end of every show, I say enjoy the process because Dynasty is a process. We have a tried and true method that works. These foundational assets are what we really try to build our teams around. So our foundational wide receiver building blocks, the criteria that Snoog and I have come up with is, number one, 25 years or younger. Why do we want our wide receivers 25? Because we are looking at the next spot here. A foundational wide receiver building block fits both contenders and rebuilders. Having a guy like A.J. Brown, for instance, is usually great for Dynasty, but he's 28. If you're rebuilding in 2 years, he's going to be 30. Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, who else do we have? Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, guys like that. Nico Collins, they're fantastic Dynasty wide receivers. But if you have them on a rebuilding team, in 2 years when that team is competitive, they're going to be 28 years old. So that's why we should go with 25 and younger, fits both those. And then Snoog, I mean, I think we look at premium trade value, and then we want them to at least be the number one target and have a wide receiver one season under their belt or wide receiver one upside. You know, because there's guys that we have seen wide receiver one seasons from, you know, Brian Thomas Jr., from Malik Nabers, from guys like that. But then there's guys like right now we're starting to see it from Emeka Egbuka. We're really close to having it from Jaxon Smith-Njigba. Tetairoa McMillan showing some flash. So it's about that, you know, being that alpha dog in your offense. You're not going to see a lot of wide receiver twos on this particular list. And then that trade value.
Yeah, I love it. These are the criteria I'm personally looking at as well, right? Like we're trying to look for these type of players that, you know, number one target. Do they have the QB play? Do they have the age adjusted, you know, under 25 years old? Are they players that are about to hit their prime, right? Usually that for wide receivers, I think the prime age is like 26 to 27 years old. Mm-hmm. These guys are entering their prime right now. A lot of them have the quarterback play on this list. The best thing though, Dad, for me is that skill set. When you have that skill set and that elite game breaking upside, like a lot of these guys we're going to talk about here in the top, 4 to 8, if you have that with the number one target upside and they have the QB play and they're under 25 years old, that they go out there, they have a, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, 1,800 plus yard season. They're a top 5 startup pick. And that's what we're trying to hit on. Jaxon Smith-Njigba, Dad, he fit all these criteria last year besides the QB play. He gets the QB play. Now he's back in that range, probably going to be a first-round startup pick this coming off season. Malik Nabers, before the injury. Jackson Dart comes to life. Another one that's fitting that. So I'm excited to jump into these guys because I'm getting real excited about the criteria that are checking boxes.
You know, Jamar Chase, it didn't seem that long ago that 2020, we were talking about this rookie phenom here that's going to absolutely be tearing things up. Now he's 25 years old, but still in the prime of his career. You're going to see him over the next several years. When you talk about talent and elite level skill sets, I mean, Jamar Chase is at the top. no matter what criteria you use, whether it's separation, whether it's yards after the catch. This guy is phenomenal. Right now at Smash Accept, we have him as our Dynasty wide receiver 1 with a super flex value of 3 first plus. And Snoog, I have a lot of people that reach out to me in the Discord, in Twitter, and they're like, look, I got 326 firsts for Ja'Marr Chase. Talk to me about why that's a bad process to just take 3 random firsts for a player we're talking about here. And these guys that we're going over these first ones, and I apologize for not putting this up there first, but we are talking about these guys are elite foundational centerpiece wide receivers, right? These 4 guys, Snoog, you're not just taking 3 random firsts. They're all worth 3 first plus. But how do you go about if you're trading these guys? I mean, I'm personally these are ride or die type of guys because JSN is 23, Puka's 24, Nabers is 22. These are the guys that you can ride out for a long time. But if you are trying to rebuild and you are trying to tear it down, what kind of packages are you looking at for these players?
Yeah, every year there's a golden nugget to the wide receiver position, right? Right now our golden nugget's Malik Nabers. We have an injured player that's going to take all the fantasy football points off our roster from a rebuilding standpoint for this year. Still give us a top 4 talent in the NFL, top 4 situation with Jackson Dart here in New York. Number 1 target fits all these criterias. We could turn Jamar, we could turn Jaxon Smith-Njigba, Puka Nacua, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb into Malik Nabers plus right now. That's one avenue. And the second one, insulated moves. We're going to talk about some of these guys, 5 through 12 after this. If I'm trading one of these top 4 guys, I better be getting one of those guys plus a ransom of draft capital in return. We want guaranteed hits and draft capital to liquidate the roster around with these elite studs. Because, Dad, imagine you trade Ja'Marr Chase for 3 firsts. Sounds great, right? It's 111, 112, and 110 the next 3 years. You're probably getting burnt, right? There's not a good chance that if someone's trading 3 firsts out in advance that the team's going to suck. So I'm trying to insulate here with these guys and get other studs plus draft capital on top.
And for some of you guys that are new to the show, an insulated trade would have been last year where you're trading Ja'Marr Chase for Jaxon Smith-Njigba and 2 firsts. And let's be honest, that was on the table last year. So
100%.
We talk about a Smash Accept where we are taking an elite level asset right now. That would be a Ja'Marr Chase, tearing down to a Tetairoa McMillan in 2 firsts, knowing that Tetairoa McMillan's going to increase in value and a move like that. But let's get back to Ja'Marr Chase because he is, honestly, he's your guy. He's the wide receiver 1. When you talk about Dynasty, him and JSN are probably the only 2 wide receivers that are going to likely go round 1 startup picks at this point. I think Malik Nabers will bounce back. But tell me on why Ja'Marr Chase is as good as he is and why he belongs as the Dynasty wide receiver 1.
Yeah, I mean, he fits every single criteria we're talking about. 25 years old, tied to an elite franchise quarterback in Joe Burrow. Has the number 1 target upside. I mean, this is a guy that is literally averaging, 15 targets a game, 12 targets a game this year. Last year had 1,700 yards and 17 touchdowns. He was the Triple Crown winner last year at 24 years old. He hasn't even kissed his prime yet, Dad. Like, if we're being honest, 25 years old for a wide receiver isn't prime. 175 targets last year. He already has 117 this year. He's checking every damn box. And you know what the gold nugget is to Ja'Marr Chase? That defense is literally awful. This team has to score points every game. They have to throw 50 times a game. They're in, 30, 40-point shootouts almost every week. That's what you're looking for. If you want a Triple Crown winner, it needs to be someone in a situation like Ja'Marr Chase. That's why he's both of our Dynasty wide receiver 1s.
And now the Dynasty wide receiver 2 has changed. Now, I said it in the offseason, and I'm going to stick with it, is if there was no injury, Malik Nabers is the Dynasty wide receiver 1 at this point. I firmly believe that. But this man has gone and passed him. Jaxon Smith-Njigba is now your Dynasty wide receiver 2. I have him as 2. You have him as 2. I think his value's right there the same. We're looking at him as 3 first plus. Snoog, I mean, on receptions of 20-plus yards this year, 99.9 receiving grade, first in the NFL. 13 catches, first in the NFL. 482 yards, first in the NFL. And 5 contested catches of 20-plus. That's first as well. Like, he is literally – Sam Darnold and him fit perfectly. We talk about some of the demise that's happened to Justin Jefferson, and it's like Sam Darnold is good for 1 wide receiver. He's not going to prop up a whole team of wide receivers, but he has absolutely peppered Jaxon Smith-Njigba. He's made it to a point where he is an elite talent that is now in a situation to absolutely smash at 10 to 12 targets a game. Targets are huge when you come to these kind of things. You see the volume, and this is a guy that's going to get phenomenal volume. If you're making a trade here from Chase to Jaxon Smith-Njigba, or you're trying to go up from one of these guys, talk to me about some trades, because I don't see anybody trading JSN. We had an opportunity here, but I think the last guy you can ever tear down off of is Ja'Marr Chase. So what's the value difference between these two wide receivers right now?
Yeah, it's probably like an early second, right? I think it needs to be a decently sizable gap. Yeah, probably, or 1-2 flop would be more comfortable for me. That Joe Burrow, Sam Darnold difference is just a big deal to me, especially with like, what is Darnold for the future? Like, there's a lot of kind of question marks up in the air there, but Jaxon Smith-Njigba, man, I'm so excited for him, Dad. We were pounding the drum, and he's a top 10 dynasty wide receiver before he even played a snap in the NFL, back when we started together in 2023 with our first rookie draft together. Like, this is a player that we've been touting for a while. He got absolutely boned with Shane Waldron in Seattle with bad QB play, crowded situation, awful offensive scheme. Finally gets some sort of light last year, breaks out this year, gets a good situation to thrive. He's pacing to break the record. Like, this guy is the third highest rookie wide receiver I've had in my process, just breaking down and evaluating rookie wideouts since 2021 in that Ja'Marr Chase class, behind Ja'Marr Chase and Marvin Harrison Jr. I had him one step ahead of Malik Nabers. That's how high I was on Jaxon Smith-Njigba. Dad, I think these two are like the untouchables at the wide receiver position right now for me. It probably was going to be Malik Nabers before the injury, but now it's Jaxon Smith-Njigba for me with Ja'Marr. Like, I'm not trading these guys anywhere. I don't care what it is. If I'm rebuilding, I'm not trading them.
No, these are guys that you definitely build around. The next guy we got to look at here, and he's definitely in this same area, and I think ultimately he was not a year ago. Like, the production was there, but the value has finally caught up. This is someone that across his career now, he has 19.3 fantasy points per game with Matthew Stafford. I mean, he has average 2.75 yards per route run. Had that historic rookie year where he had almost 1,500 receiving yards. This year, before he got banged up a little bit, he was on pace for 2,000 receiving yards. And I still think he's going to finish up over 1,900. Same spot, Dynasty wide receiver 3, super flex value, 3 firsts. And they're not random firsts. We're talking about, I got to get, something that's an early first plus 2 mids. Or I get a really a cornerstone type wide receiver, and then I go down and I tear off Puka Nacua. And I think when you look at these guys, and when I originally came up with the criteria, he's different than these other guys. Jaxon Smith-Njigba was all 3 of these other wide receivers, Chase, JSN, and Malik Nabers. When you look at these guys, prospects. They are elite prospects. They were guys that went, they ended up going round 1, where Puka fell way down. But at this point, after what he's done in back-to-back seasons, you can't even – there's nothing to argue anymore. Like, he belongs up in this tier. And I think ourselves included, we're a little bit behind on that. I think to start the season out, I think we both had him as like wide receiver 7, in that range.
6 or 7,
and I think he belongs up here. And I think he belongs up here to stay. And a lot of people don't give him the credit that he deserves.
Yeah, I think the only question mark with him, I think there's 2 question marks with Puka Nacua. It's the injuries. This dude seems like he's injured every single week because he plays like a running back. And Matthew Stafford, right? Like, he's playing at a Hall of Fame level the past couple of years with Puka.
Insane.
My biggest concern is, what is this going to be without Stafford? Like, are they QB purgatory? I still think Puka's good enough, and I still think Sean McVay's system's good enough to make him a 1,000-yard receiver, a guy that's still showing he's got the talent, he's got the ability to be good in a situation with volume. But, like, who's the QB there? Is it Stetson Bennett? Is it one of these guys that is awful? Do they draft the QB this year? Do they draft one next year? Like, there's question marks there. Well, although I have Malik Nabers a little bit higher than Puka Nacua, I think there's no question marks with Dart and Jaxon Smith-Njigba and Ja'Marr Chase's situations as there is with Puka. But with Matthew Stafford in this situation, Dad, Puka Nacua is a friggin' juggernaut. Like, he is putting up arguably 300 fantasy points every single year he's lined up across from Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, and you brought up Malik Nabers, and I think these 4 guys literally are quarterback proof. Like
Yeah.
they are at that spot where they're not Shane Waldron proof. No one's Shane Waldron proof, but they
Yeah.
are quarterback proof. Like you're going to, I think that's the gap that we always wish that Garrett Wilson had these quarterbacks. These guys at least have them. Malik Nabers, phenomenal, record-breaking rookie season, still just 22 years old, and unfortunately tears the ACL this year. Jackson Dart starts playing, and we see him go down. And Jackson Dart has looked fantastic despite this. I think Malik Nabers, the day the season ends, no matter what, he passes Puka Nacua in value. He's 22 years old. He's 2 years younger. The only reason I have Puka above Malik Nabers right now is a lot of people are contending still. They're trying to win a championship, and Malik Nabers is just not going to do that for you. So if you have Puka Nacua and you're not in it, trade him for Malik Nabers right now. That's a trade you can get because some point this year, he will be the wide receiver 1 in Dynasty. You know, you're going to have a tier up there. By the end of 2026, I think you're going to see just Nabers and JSN up at the top. I think Chase's, value is going to dip a little bit because of his age. Those guys are absolutely phenomenal assets to have. And I'm excited with this group. These are your 4 guys. These are, again, the guys that we're looking at. We're calling this particular tier. We're calling them our guys that are elite, foundational centerpieces. And when you talk about a centerpiece, it's like the guys that you're trying to build a block. So we talk about these building blocks. We move over. We talk about what we're doing here with these centerpieces. These are the guys that you're going to build around for the future. These are the guys that you want on all of your teams. And then we go down to the next tier. And if I'm going to tier down and I'm going to make some trades, these are the guys that are going to win you some championships. These are guys that we call foundational cornerstone wide receivers, still under that 25. But Snoog, when you look at this list, what's the biggest thing that jumps out to you?
They're all good talents. They're all young, and they're all performing right now at a high level. Like that's the big thing, right? They're not just young, talented players. They're all young, talented players performing. I think they're all top 10 receivers right now in total points scored, right? I think Tet and Emeka are 8 and 9, and I think Rashee Rice, since he's been back, is a top 10 receiver, and London's a top 5 receiver right now. So they're performing. They're all elite talents. They're all young. They're all in good situations to thrive. They all have, dare I say it, I think the Chiefs at this point, their defense is pretty much on the hot end right now. Like these teams all have to be in shootout games to win, right? Like teams like that at least. So my favorite thing too, Dad, 3 of them are in the same awful division, and none of the teams in that division have a defense. Like that's what I'm seeing with this group right here.
And the more I look at this, we've taken Tetairoa and his, he was above Emeka, then Emeka blew up, then Tetairoa is starting to catch up. But I look at these guys and it's like, this is a great group to have. I love these guys as my wide receiver 2. In Dynasty at this point, they're starting to become wide receiver 1s on a lot of my teams. You're starting to look at these guys. Let's talk about the first one here. Your guy, Emeka Egbuka. I'm looking at him right now as my Dynasty wide receiver 8. And I believe it's just 23 years old, so he's a little bit older. He's crazy older than Malik Nabers. He's also older than Tetairoa McMillan by a year. But Dynasty wide receiver 8, I have him currently valued out at 2.5 firsts. What do you like about Emeka's game, and how do you see him over the next maybe 2 years with his Dynasty value? Where is it going to go?
Yeah. My favorite thing about him is he's a technician. He's just one of those guys, and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jaxon Smith-Njigba. He's not as quite good as those guys, but he's a technician. He's, fundamentally sound from a zone perspective, from a man perspective. He can beat it at all 3 levels. He's got Baker Mayfield as well. He's got that QB play. He's in a situation where he's the clear number 1 target right now, and long-term he is. The talent, the draft capital, the QB situation. He's 22, 23 years old, Dad. He needs to average like 38 yards a game the rest of the season to put up well over 1,000 to 1,100 yards as a rookie. To me, that's really impressive. If you're hitting that 1,000 yard mark as a rookie, that's impressive to me. He's probably going to do like 1,000 plus and 10 touchdowns. Like that's an incredible rookie season. And the situation's only going to get better. He's only going to get more involved in this offense. Rookie wide receivers, Dad, the second half of the season are known for their breakouts. He was 2 bad throws from Baker Mayfield away from 2 massive touchdowns, 1 in the Saints game, 1 in the Lions game. I think he missed 2 in the Lions game that were clear touchdowns. Like this guy should be probably a top 5 receiver in points scored right now. That's how good he's been.
The next guy on our list, we're looking at Rashee Rice. Now, Rashee Rice is 25, so he still meets that criteria. He has bounced back fantastic. He's our current Dynasty wide receiver 9. We're 2.5 first. And I think most people are coming to me and they're like, Dad, I lost Drake London. What do I do? And I'm telling them, you trade for Rashee Rice. You trade for Tetairoa McMillan. You trade for Emeka Egbuka. You stay in this tier here because Rashee Rice, I know a lot of people are going to come down and call him, the slant king and do these things. 51 targets this year inside with 5 yards or less, but he is arguably the best wide receiver in the game when it comes to yards after the catch. Back-to-back seasons now, he's been up there at the top, and I'm not saying he's the shiftiest guy, but he makes it happen every single time they get the ball into his hands. He makes big things happen. Rashee Rice is a set-it-and-forget-it guy. Unfortunately, this past week, nothing was not great, but over the time that he's played in the last 15 games, he's been a top 5 wide receiver. He's a guy that you can trust in, and he's going to have major volume with a guy like Patrick Mahomes. The last one here, and we have the injury to Drake London. We're not quite sure of the severity yet. What I tell people when it comes to foundational dynasty wide receivers, right now he's our wide receiver 10, 2.5 first. If you lose a dynasty, like a guy like this, who's a foundational asset, where's his value go when he gets injured? Nowhere. It does not dip in value, right? But if you have a running back in this similar age frame that's 24 years old and he tears his ACL. James Cook tears his ACL. He goes from worth a 105 down to a late first, and I think Drake London just stays in that same area. He is very similar to the next guy. I am so close to just saying, you know what?
I have him over him at this point.
Let's just move Tetairoa over. And that's just kudos to where we were at ahead of the season, right? Is like Tetairoa McMillan was a guy that we touted, and Emeka was a guy that we touted, guys that we were trying to push into there. I still have Tet as my dynasty wide receiver 11. Both these guys were 2 first plus. There's not a wide receiver in next year's class that is as talented as Tetairoa McMillan. I like Carnell Tate. I like Jordan Tyson. I like Mekhi Lemon, but none of them are in that same range in my mind as Tetairoa McMillan. He is a guy that's going to be a set it and forget it. And I think you can probably, during the rookie season, make some moves for him. At this point, you kind of missed your window. A lot of people did not believe in Tetairoa McMillan. I was scooping him up everywhere. I was trading Drake London in a second for Tetairoa McMillan in a first. And when that trade went down, I got mocked. People are like, oh, that's a bad trade, Dad. And no, that's where it needs to be, and I think we win some trades, we lose some trades, but when it comes to guys that we really believe in, like a Tetairoa McMillan, we're ultimately winning those kind of trades. And I look at this particular tier, I see the guys that we have here, and I'm really trying to get these guys as my wide receiver 2 on my teams. This is the range that you want to look at them. I mean, you're looking at 23 to 25 years old. These are guys that are going to put up. I don't think they have the same target volume as that first group. I think Tetairoa McMillan could. I don't think they have the same skill set as that top group. You and I both have been scouting these guys coming out. Tet and London are very similar. None of these guys were like, okay, this guy's going to get drafted top 5 in the NFL draft, top 10 in the NFL draft. Yeah. London and Tet did, but they're not the same value as those other guys up at the top.
Yeah, there's one other guy that I would personally throw in this tier, and we're going to talk about him here shortly. But the difference is that he's in like the most dumpster fire situation of all time. And that matters, right? Like Drake London and Tet right now, QB plays sketchy, but when Bryce Young and Michael Penix are playing, they're doing one thing, targeting the heck out of their number 1 receiver and being somewhat competent enough to be able to put drives together and have some spike weeks. We just saw it from Bryce Young, right? Like one week he looks like the worst QB you've ever seen. And then the next week he's like this magic Bryce that looks good and he's like putting things together. We're seeing floors out of these guys right now. They're the number 1 targets. They're under that 25 mark. They're talented. They're big bodies. They're every down threats. I literally had my comps for Tet McMillan, T. Higgins, Drake London coming out. He's every bit of that. And he looks so damn good out in open space.
All right, here we are now. This is where you're going to make your money next year. These are the guys that you buy now that are going to crank in value. I can literally see the writing on the wall of all of these guys increasing in value. I mean, we look at this list. And at this point, and Snoog, this is not this is wide receiver 12 through 18 range. You got to sprinkle in Nico Collins. You got to sprinkle in these other guys that are putting up points. But for me right now, I can't make an argument to put anyone above George Pickens. George Pickens is 24 years old. He is out producing everyone on this list. He's currently tied to Dak Prescott. If he gets the contract, Snoog, he moves up a tier for me. Like, I think I would move him into that next tier up. He has been that good. You and I have been on him for forever. You know, we predicted the breakout a year early. It didn't quite happen with Pittsburgh. And then that trade happened and people didn't correct properly. And we made a lot of value on that. But then you look at Lad McConkey. You know, he's had a rock solid season. Great at the end of last year. Garrett Wilson, arguably the most talented guy on this part of it here. You could have him as high as wide receiver 8, wide receiver 9. They can't get worse at the quarterback position. And we've been saying that for years, right? Then you look at Marv, you look at Rome, you look at BTJ. This is a list here where we talk about locks to increase in value. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about these kind of wide receivers who are clearly going to go up. But let's start with GP. I mean, George Pickens right now is blowing the roof off the place. I currently have him as our dynasty wide receiver 12, a super flex value of an early first. What pick in 2026 would you pay for George Pickens? Because I would argue he's worth the 102, but you don't have to pay him.
Yeah, I mean, what's stopping everyone from putting George Pickens over Drake London? They're the same age. One's out producing the other one, and one has Dak Prescott. One has the QB with 3 torn ACLs and no outlook with the future, right? One's in a high-scoring passing. You could flip them, no problem.
1-2.
And I think you could argue from a talent perspective, they're pretty much on the same level from, like, go out there and make plays every week. Like, George Pickens is better in some things. Drake London's better in some things. But this offense, I think, just elevates George Pickens so much. Like, especially with CD there. Everyone thought, oh, CD's back. George Pickens isn't going to do anything. Dude, you need number 1 corners on George Pickens, or it's going to be an absolute embarrassment for that defense. He's definitely worth a top 3 to 4 first next year for sure. 24 years old. He's going to get that fat contract in Dallas. He's got Dak Prescott. He's in that offense that, needs to throw 50 times a game. We said he was this year's T. Higgins. T. Higgins was wide receiver 2 in points per game last year when he was healthy. George Pickens is a top 4 wide receiver right now. We hit that right on the head.
I love it. Next one's Lad McConkey. Lad McConkey's not as sexy when it comes to those things, but he's still putting up. If the Chargers can protect Justin Herbert, they're going to get the ball out quickly. They're going to get it to Lad McConkey. Lad McConkey is not as sexy when you talk about some of these other guys on here, but wide receiver 13 currently also worth an early first. And I know, we caught a lot of criticism saying last year, a trade Lad McConkey for the 103. And the 103 was Tetairoa McMillan in 95% of the leagues. And now you see why is he is a really rock solid wide receiver 2 who can put up some wide receiver 1 weeks. And you get guys like Tetairoa McMillan who are wide receiver 2s that put up monster weeks. And I think you're going to only see his value increase. Then there's your guy here, Garrett Wilson. He's my guy too. Let's not even go there. It's like, they have to get a quarterback. We talked about Mac Jones going to the Vikings because that's going to help Justin Jefferson. Just getting somebody competent. Garrett Wilson, if he even had Jacoby Brissett, would be putting up 1,500 plus type seasons. But now we're at a spot, Snoog. He's my dynasty wide receiver 14. Would you pay the 102 for Garrett Wilson?
Yes, I would.
How would you pay 2 mid firsts?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would too, but I was like, you understand, it's like we can't make excuses anymore in 2026. He is a guy that I'm going to be buying everywhere. He's on IR, so you get him for a deal.
What if they ship him off? They shipped off Sauce and Quinnen Williams. I don't think we can rule that out yet. I know they didn't at the deadline, but this offseason, if someone comes with a hot value and they're like, shit, we have nothing, it's time to rebuild, let's just do it all again. If he gets shipped off, dude, he could be a top 5 wide receiver in Dynasty. That's how good he is. We talked about earlier, I don't know. We know JSN and Chase and Nabers are full-blown QB proof. I'd argue Garrett Wilson's up there with those guys in terms of no matter who is throwing the damn football on the right next to him, that he's getting you 1,000 yards and 80 to 90 to 100 plus receptions. It's guaranteed. He is going to go out there and do his thing every week. he's had like a million different coaches, million different offensive coordinators, a million different QBs, and he goes out there and produces. No excuses every single week. That's what separates him from a lot of the guys above him.
The next guy on this list really starting to play. I never thought I would have said Kyler Murray's the guy that's holding him back, but with Jacoby Brissett, Marvin Harrison Jr. has looked really good. Another guy that, again, Dynasty wide receiver 15. All of these guys in this tier, you could argue one way or another, who you like, who you prefer. I look at a lot of these guys and you're like, okay, yeah, you could say you like Marvin Harrison Jr. over Garrett Wilson. You like him over George Pickens, or you like him over Lad McConkey. And that's why Dynasty's great. You can start making some trades. You can start to work your way through here. But I think Marvin Harrison Jr. definitely belongs on this list. The 2025 or 2024 class was fantastic. Rome Odunze, he's flashed at times this year. Again, this is where I think the value changes. Marv is still early. Rome and Brian Thomas Jr., both of them have had the flashes. They've shown it. Both of them are collectively guys that I'm not done on them. I think both of them have tremendous upside. I think they're guys that I could go out there and pay a mid-first plus a little bit. And I think you can get Brian Thomas Jr. I think you can get Rome Odunze. I think you can pick up one of these wide receivers who, we have seen it come from them already in the past. We've seen them play at a very high level, and I'm perfectly fine investing in those guys because I think they have that. But Snoog, this is where I want to live right now. This is my dynasty area where I am going out actively and I'm looking at everybody's team and I said, this is who I want. I had an offer of George Pickens and 2 firsts for Chase, and I debated it. I'm considering it. Like, if you have Jamar Chase and you're trying to start a rebuild, get one of these 4 guys at the top here and 2 firsts, preferably mid 27s. I'm not saying do it for Rome or BTJ, but Marv, Garrett, Lad, Pickens, and 2 firsts, I'm in. And I think that gap, that closes. That's what we talk about with insulated trades is you have an opportunity to insulate off of Jefferson, Amon-Ra, Chase, those elite wide receivers into this area plus 2 firsts. And Snoog, we talk about it. I mean, if you did it last year, there's a good chance that if you tiered down, let's just say you got JSN and 2 firsts for Chase last year, which you could have done. And then those firsts were turned into 103 and 108. You know who you got in this year's class? You brought in Tetairoa McMillan and Emeka Egbuka, or you brought in Omarion Hampton and Tyler Warren, and I think we've been blessed with a elite level group of picks over the last couple of years, and 2027 is going to be just like that. So if you can insulate down to these guys plus 227 firsts, I'm doing it all day long.
All day. And the thing is, like, all these guys in this tier are really talented receivers. Like for BTJ, it's been just, a sophomore slump, bad chemistry and QB play with Trevor Lawrence, just something off there, new system. For Marv, it's been Kyler, right? And for Rome, it's been inconsistencies in the whole Ben Johnson offense for the Chicago Bears in general. One week, Caleb's Patrick Mahomes, and the next week, he looks like Derek Carr, right? So it's like there's been these little inconsistencies, and then Garrett's got now QB. The only one, maybe 2 in here you can confidently rely on from a QB play perspective, going out there and producing, it's Lad and Pickens right now. And I think Garrett and Pickens are definitely up there with the most talented in this group. And it's just a really good group right now. We're really blessed with this group of players to be able to insulate to, because some years, Dad, like I remember it was like Waddle, Chris Olave, some of these other guys that you're like, they're good, but I don't know if they can ever be this good. And it's like Jordan Addison was getting hyped up like that at one point. It's like, we actually finally have a group of guys that I can confidently be like, that's a wide receiver 1, go trade for, so I love it.
Yeah, I love it. This has been a fun show. If you guys want to see a little bit more about what we do, you got my content, Snoog's content, everything that we're doing today. What I did is I took all of the 2025 rookies and combined them with the 2026. So you can see just how close these guys are. You know what I mean? And I have just a little bit of a spoiler. Jeremiah Love is over everybody in the 2025 class right now for me. And then I have 3 guys in that top 12. Most of them are going to be from 2025 because 2025 was a really good year, but that's something you get to look at. And Snoog's going to have his rookie rankings throughout the entire process. We're going to put you in a position to help you guys absolutely smash your league and 4 and 5 extra money like Snoog and I do every single year. So there's the link below. Patreon.com/SmashAccept gets you into our Discord. And it's literally We're running promos all the time, so check it out on this website. Thanks again for tuning in, and enjoy the process. It's right there.